You know, the reason some people generate just massive results without relying on willpower, it isn't superior discipline. It's that they've engineered a self-sustaining system. Today, we're going to break down the three-part framework to build a life where your best work, your most important habits, they just happen automatically. This isn't about trying harder. It's about building smarter. All right, let's get into it.
So this right here is the fundamental shift in thinking we need to make. It's this idea that you can stop fighting a daily battle against yourself. You can stop depending on motivation that comes and goes like the weather. And instead, you can build a machine that does the heavy lifting for you. We call it the output engine. And honestly, it turns the whole concept of productivity on its head.
And that brings us to the central idea, something called the willpower paradox. So what is it? Well, the paradox is this: the highest level of performance, that kind of consistency that just seems superhuman, it doesn't actually come from superhuman effort. Nope. It comes from a really well-designed system. Think of it like a self-sustaining loop, where the output of your work, the words you write, the workout you finish, that actually fuels your motivation to start again tomorrow. The secret to automatic results isn't your internal grit, it's the structural integrity of your external system.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to diagnose the core problem most of us face, which is something called motivational fragility. Then, I'm going to lay out the exact three-part blueprint for the output engine. After that, we'll dive into the science of why this works on a brain level. And then, the most important part, we're going to walk through the precise three-step protocol you can use to build your own engine, starting today. We'll wrap it all up by distilling it into one powerful principle: systems over willpower.
Okay, so before we can build the solution, we have to get totally clear on the problem. See, most people who struggle with consistency think the problem is them. They think, oh, I'm just lazy, or I'm not disciplined enough. But the truth is, the problem isn't you. The problem is the tool you're using, willpower. And it is absolutely the wrong tool for the job of long-term sustained output.
So, let's just ask the question straight up. Why is it so ridiculously hard to just do the thing you know you should do, day in and day out? Why does motivation feel like this wave that just crashes and then disappears, leaving you stranded? Well, the answer really lies in two key concepts that are probably sabotaging your efforts right now without you even knowing it.
The first culprit is this thing called motivational fragility. This is what happens when your ability to act is completely tied to your emotional state. So if you only go to the gym when you feel like it, or you only work on your project when you feel inspired, you have a fragile system. You've made getting started way harder than it needs to be. Your progress becomes totally unpredictable, and you're just a sitting duck for procrastination because you're waiting for these perfect internal conditions that, let's be honest, almost never show up.
Now, the second problem, and this one is a real game changer, is ego depletion. Tons of research shows that willpower isn't a character trait. It's not some moral virtue you either have or you don't. It's a finite cognitive resource. It's just like the battery on your phone. Every single decision you make, every temptation you fight off, every time you force yourself to focus, you're draining that battery. So when you rely only on willpower to be productive, you are literally starting every day with a full battery that is guaranteed to be on empty by 3 p.m. It's a losing battle by design.
So when you lay it all out like this, the choice becomes crystal clear, right? I mean, look at the left side, the willpower model. It's fragile, it's unpredictable, it's high friction, it totally depends on how you feel, and it actively burns through your most valuable mental energy. But then you look to the right, the systems model. That's what the output engine is all about. It's robust, it's predictable, and it's incredibly low friction. It couldn't care less how you feel. It just relies on the structure you've built. And most importantly, it's designed to conserve your mental energy for the work that actually matters. Okay, so if the old model is broken, what does the new one look like? This is where we stop diagnosing the problem and we start engineering the solution. I'm about to lay out the three core components of the output engine. And just to be clear, this isn't some random collection of tips and tricks. This is a fully interconnected, self-sustaining system.
It all comes down to these three pillars. First up, the input design. The goal here is simple. Make starting whatever you need to do so ridiculously easy that it's actually harder not to do it. Second, the output feedback loop. This is where you make your progress immediate, tangible, and visible. The action has to be linked to a result you can see. And third, the system reinforcement. This is the crucial final step that closes the loop, where you intentionally connect what you just did to your desired identity. These three parts, they work together to create a powerful self-reinforcing cycle.
Now, this blueprint might sound pretty simple, and that's the point, but its power comes from the deep psychological and neurological principles it's built on. This isn't just a good idea, it's a system that's engineered to work with your brain's natural wiring, not against it. So let's pop the hood and look at the science of why this engine actually creates automatic results.
So, how does it pull this off? Well, the output engine works by exploiting three incredibly powerful cognitive mechanisms. First, it strategically bypasses the need for willpower altogether. Second, it directly taps into your brain's dopamine reward cycle, which makes the process itself feel good. And third, it leverages our deep human need for self-consistency, making the habit feel like a true expression of who you are. Let's break each one of these down.
Okay, so to really get this, you have to understand the role of your prefrontal cortex, or PFC. Just think of this as the CEO of your brain. It handles all the tough stuff, the big decisions, long-term planning, and every single act of willpower. And while it's super powerful like we talked about with ego depletion, it gets tired fast. So the entire goal of our input design is to offload the decision to start from this overworked CEO and turn it into a low-level automatic process that needs almost zero CEO involvement. And get this stat just blows my mind. Your brain, which is only about 2% of your body weight, eats up a staggering 20% of your body's total energy. That's insane, right? And the prefrontal cortex is one of its absolute hungriest parts. When you rely on willpower, you are burning through that precious energy just to get off the starting line. By creating a low-friction system, you save all that energy for the actual work, the deep thinking and problem-solving that really moves the needle.
And now for the really cool part, dopamine. This is the brain chemical of motivation and reward. Now, most of us wait for a big win at the very end of a project to get that nice dopamine hit. But the output engine hacks this system. By creating an immediate, tangible feedback loop, like seeing the words you wrote or literally checking a box, you get a small hit of dopamine the second you take action. The system links the reward to the act of doing the process, not just finishing the outcome. This is what makes the process itself feel addictive and creates that unstoppable momentum.
Okay, theory's over. We've covered the diagnosis, we've covered the science, now it's time for application. This is where we move from just understanding the engine to actually building it, step by step. I'm going to give you a direct, actionable protocol that you can put to work immediately. No ambiguity here, just a clear set of instructions.
Here they are, the 3 non-negotiable steps. First, you're going to design your zero-friction input. This is all about making it impossibly easy to start. Second, you will create a tangible output loop. This is how you make your progress visible and real, like putting an X on a calendar or adding a line to a spreadsheet the moment you finish. Remember, this visual proof isn't for judgment, it's for feedback. It's what triggers that little dopamine reward. And third, you lock it all in by reinforcing the system with a specific identity ritual. So for step 1, your zero-friction input, we use a brilliant technique called habit stacking. You just anchor your new desired behavior to an existing one you already do automatically. The formula is precise, it's simple. After I, your current habit, I will, your new 2-minute action. For example, after I pour my morning coffee, I will open my journal and write 1 sentence. The key here is that 2-minute rule. The goal isn't to write a masterpiece. The goal is to master the art of just starting. Make it so easy you can't possibly say no. Now for step 3, the identity ritual. This might sound a little strange, but trust me, this is the glue that holds the whole system together. Right after you do your action and log your output, you perform this super quick 10-second ritual. You just state, either out loud or to yourself, I executed the system. I am a writer. Or maybe I am an athlete. Or even I am a disciplined person. This tiny act connects your action directly to your desired identity, and it tells your brain, hey, this is who I am now. And that leverages that powerful human drive to be consistent with who we believe we are.
So as we start to bring this all together, I want to boil everything we've talked about down into one single, powerful, memorable principle. Seriously, if you forget everything else from this explainer, just remember this. This is the core philosophical shift that the entire output engine framework is built on. Willpower is for starting, systems are for sustaining. Let that sink in for a second. Willpower is a spark. It's awesome for those one-off acts of courage or for making that big decision to finally change your life. But it is not a fuel source. A spark cannot power a journey. It's going to burn out. Systems are the engine. They're the robust, reliable architecture that takes that initial spark and turns it into sustained, consistent momentum day after day, no matter how you feel.
So now the knowledge is yours. But look, knowledge without action is totally useless. So here's my challenge to you. Tonight, design your zero-friction input using that habit stacking formula. Decide on your 2-minute action, then figure out your tangible output loop. How are you going to visually track it? A simple spreadsheet, a check mark on a calendar? Whatever it is, make it real. And then commit to starting tomorrow. Not next week, not when you feel ready, tomorrow.
All right, let's bring it all home. The output engine, at its core, solves the problem of motivational fragility and our dangerous over-reliance on willpower. And why does this matter so much? Because it gives you a systematic, engineered way to generate massive automatic results. We saw how the framework, that zero-friction input and the tangible feedback loop, is built directly on the psychology of how our brain actually works. It bypasses ego depletion by saving our precious mental energy, and it harnesses the dopamine reward cycle to make the process itself rewarding. The ultimate takeaway is this: productivity isn't about doing more, it's about mastering systems that make focus effortless.